What's going on, Mongs? It's me, Sammy Mong, and today we're back on Crowfall, taking a look at its passive skill training system within its current state of patch 5.7. So let's go ahead and look on the left hand side here. You can see we've got home, worlds, and then we've got skills. So unlike, say, other MMOs such as World of Warcraft, you won't train up your skills in game on a character level. It seems that skills actually come on a account wide level, so it's like a tier above having a character pretty much. And whatever skills you train within these profession skill trees, you will take onto any character that you log into a world with, a campaign world with. So you could log on with a Minotaur and have all of the skill training that you've trained in, and then you can switch up to, say, a small little hamster guy, the Gwynician, and still have the same skill training. The training is account wide and not character specific, and I just want to spend a few minutes going through some of the notable things within the skill training and how it affects the game, and just give a quick overlook for anyone that has been interested or has peaked of interest within Crowfall but not yet had the chance to pick up the game themselves. Now I want to start it off with professions, as professions are one of the main trees that will carry over to every single character you make. As you can see below, you've got race and you've got class, although they're not as specific as you may think, not in the early stages. So on the professions one, you get to browse pretty much. You can either pick between crafting, exploration, or combat. Something to note here is that you can't pick two trees from a main tree. So I couldn't pick two craftings, I couldn't pick two explorations, I couldn't pick two combat. It has to be one from one and then one from the other. Although we do have three main trees, so you are going to be missing out on one here. But this is where a lot of the variation between PvPers and skillers will come in. You'll see a lot of skillers potentially going for a gathering and crafting route with exploration and crafting, and then you may see a lot of the PvPers either pick one or the other. So they would pick a combat stat and then either pick crafting to try and create their own gear, or exploration to try and gather some materials and have someone else make it for them. Of course, Crowfall is very heavily team based, so you're going to see a lot of people actually just spec into either gathering, or a lot of people spec into crafting, or a mixture of the both, as I have said. Now within crafting, of course, you have to learn the crafting basics, but then you can pick a tree. So for example, let's go on to blacksmithing. If we select blacksmithing and then go on to spend points, so I was meant to actually view the tree there. You can see that within the trees, they just give you recipes, they give you buffs to assembly speed and assembly chance, and then experimentation as well. I don't want to dive too much into this. If you are new to Crowfall and want to know more about the experimentation, be sure to let me know in the comments down below. But once you've selected a tree, that's it. Whatever character you jump in to the worlds with will have whatever training you've got here pretty much. So you wanna have a little bit of a pre-think, because you're not going to be able to have one character that's heavily focused in combat and the other that's heavily focused in crafting, because of course they carry over to both of those characters there. And now of course you get a primary and secondary track. So for example, I have picked blacksmithing, and then I'm not too heavily combat focused, I like to gather and craft, so I've gone ahead and actually started specking in the gathering trees as well, leaving the combat, because the combat tree, if as I said, more for PvPers, they will give you just buffs in terms of actual attacks and stuff like that, but not too much. It's not to the point of where you have to pick this if you do want to still do combat. You can pick crafting and exploration like me, and you'll get other combat statistic buffs from the other trees. So it is really helpful. Now, as I said, all of these trees carry over to every class and character that you have, but a lot of people may get a bit confused when it comes to race and class, because if you go on to race and we go on to class, you can see here that you're not getting into the specific races or the specific classes until the very end trees. So say you want to be a wood elf or an elkin, you're going to start off by picking a Sylvian tree, and these buffs here will apply to all of these four races. Same with the buffs here in monster. This first tree, whatever buffs you get from here, let's see, a little bit of increased strength or a little bit of increased dexterity, will apply to all of these four races. It's not just specific. So when we get to the Gwynician tree, say here at the end, this will be for that one race. So you can see it's sort of it's a very broad to a very specific training system pretty much. Like, you can just select a monster and then select, say, Sylvian, and then you've got buffs to 8 different races there. And then once you've completed that tree, you can narrow down, maybe after a bit of gameplay, a bit of game time, if you're going to play any of these 2 specific races over, say, the Stoneborn or the Gwynesian, and then get more buffs from the secondary tree, pretty much. Or if you didn't like that, train a secondary tree, and then say you've gotten Sylvian but you don't play too much with these characters, start training the other broad tree of mankind, so you get more buffs towards the human and the fairy. But what you tend to see is players will have certain routes that they take for certain races, and it is the same with the class system as well. So you can get buffs that will apply to multiple different classes to start off the tree. Of course, this is more of a broad skill training. You'll get armor, you'll get power, and you'll get a bit of health, but this will apply to all 4 of these classes. Now, if you are training in the fighter tree, they will not apply any buffs to, say, the range combats, the druids, the clerics, the range DPS, the magic DPS. So that's the only restrictions you have, but I just think is a good passive skill training system. I've not really played too many sandbox MMOs with passive training. Eve, I mean, I don't know if Ultima Online had it, but I'm just thinking about Eve, Albion Online, where they train in certain professions and stuff like that. I just wanted to give a little overview of what the skill training is like, and yeah, the world's reset on the 12th. I will be jumping back in then because my character has unfortunately been reset. So if you're new around here and want to see a bit of Crowfall gameplay, be sure to check back the channel. We have a lot of older vids showcasing gameplay, and be sure to subscribe and check back to the channel in the future for some newer gameplay, hopefully on the 5.8 update. But yeah, thanks for all of your support, and I shall see you in the next video.